You know you're living in a backwards land when your favorite day of the week is Monday. For most people, the weekend is rest. But for you, it's emotional dodgeball in a war zone. There is a world where Friday means, yay, let's celebrate. It's time to relax for the weekend. But for many of us, Friday means fear. Friday means extra work. It means overtime. And Monday means freedom. In today's topic, we're talking about that backwards feeling that, no one tells you about. It's when the weekends feel heavier than the weekdays. And in fact, a lot of people don't talk about this, but then they hear this and go, okay, I can resonate with that. Because if you're living with a covert narcissistic person, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know that feeling of your nervous system being on high alert. So you don't have to be screamed at or insulted directly in order for your nervous system to perceive danger. Sometimes it's in the tone or the looks, the weight of their silence, the strained conversations or whatever you want to call them, the passive aggressive digs, the way everything's just a little off balance. And when they're home all weekend, all day Saturday, all day Sunday, your nervous system is working overtime and your body is responding to this chronic emotional threat. Most people celebrate Friday afternoons. They count down the hours till the weekend, and now it's a time for rest, for connection, for family, maybe even getting household projects done, but doing it together. But for those living with covert narcissistic abuse, weekends are not a break. They are when your true work begins. The work of keeping peace, monitoring everyone's emotions, keeping your kids off the battleground, and always ready to jump in on a moment's notice as the buffer and the peacemaker. I remember this so vividly in my own marriage. I remember how much I used to dread Friday afternoons because now it meant he'd be home. Now we were trapped in the house all day Saturday, all day Sunday, no breaks and no buffers, for me at least. It wasn't that everything always exploded. It could actually be an okay-ish weekend. It could even be a good one. Yes, those did happen sometimes. But when the bad came, the bad was so bad. And you just never knew what was going to set it off. It could be the smallest things. The potential for it to be a downright horrible, disastrous, ugly weekend was always present. It was very real. And in that situation, the tension, the unspoken tension in the house, you could cut it with a knife. It was the mood, the tight shoulders, the overactive brain, and the radar for everyone's feelings. This inability to exhale, it's like I held my breath all weekend long, is how I felt. It's the way the atmosphere in the house would shift the moment he walked in, like a dense fog settling over everything, and everyone became guarded. My kids, they knew before they could ever verbalize this. They knew without words ever being given to them or told to them. They'd scatter to different rooms. They'd plug in their headphones, dive into their screens or their homework or literally anything to stay invisible, out of his awareness, out of his line of fire. And me, my whole system would go into this invisible survival mode. My productivity disappeared and my creativity dried up. I'd try to read a book and I'd stare at the same page for hours. I would try to get something done, but my brain just couldn't focus. So I might clean the same part of the house again and again and again. I might sweep the same section of floor again and again. See, too much of my brain was overly occupied with keeping the environment peaceful. It was overly occupied with him. The fear of his reactions, the fear of his moods, the fear of, his interactions with the kids. So I was just managing. managing the energy, managing the mood, managing everyone else so that no one accidentally triggered the next storm, even if it was going to be triggered by the smallest thing. Somebody forgot to take the trash out, or somebody left their shoes on the stairs, and all of these little things. It could even be somebody sighed too loud, or a wrong look, or using the wrong knife to cut the bread. I wasn't living. I was working full time. This was my full time job. And it never went away. And full time to do what? To keep the house okay-ish? There's this weird place of okay that you just can kind of exist. And yeah, I know that weird, like, where things were just kind of okay. They weren't, but they were kind of okay. And then Monday morning would come, and he'd go back to work. And finally, I would exhale. My shoulders would drop. My body would remember what it felt like to unclench. The house felt safer and lighter again. And it was immediate that there was a change, a shift, but it wasn't immediate that I could start functioning as myself again. That took hours, sometimes most of Monday, just to come down from this heightened state that I had been in, to find my own rhythm again. But even as I was recovering, I was already counting the days until Friday again. So you're in a backwards world that doesn't make sense at the time. I didn't know why I felt the way I felt until I did, until I saw it. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. And this backwards world makes perfect sense when you understand what you're living in. You're living in a survival mode within your own home. And this is what covert narcissistic abuse feels like. It feels like, survival. It feels like a hostage situation. It's not necessarily loud explosions, but it is constant tension. It's not necessarily bruises, but it is the emotional equivalent of walking barefoot on glass 7 days a week, and especially on the weekend. Now, I created a backwards week survival calendar, and I want to give that to you. You know you're living in the backwards world of covert narcissistic abuse when your week looks something like this. Monday morning. I'm going to call Monday Sweet Freedom. The birds are chirping. The tension has finally left the building. Your body is still on high alert, but there's space now. Space to exhale. You make a real breakfast. You might even taste it this time. You walk through your own house like it's yours again. The silence isn't sharp. It's safe. And somewhere inside you whisper, I made it. Another weekend off my list. And you exhale like a hostage just released from a weekend-long negotiation, blinking in the light, trying to remember what your normal feels like. Tuesday. Productivity returns. Your brain starts to come back online. You open your laptop and the fog starts to lift. You reply to emails. You fold laundry. You even run errands. All the things that felt impossible 48 hours ago. And for a moment, just a moment, you remember what it feels like to be competent, capable, to be you. You're not just surviving, now you're actually functioning. You're briefly, fantasizing about signing up for a yoga class. You might even be planning a lunch with a friend, not to escape, but just because you want to. Wednesday, the hump day shift. You wake up feeling good, clear. The week is in a rhythm now. The dread is far enough away that you almost forget about it. But by mid-morning, the familiar tap, tap, tap starts in your chest. Hey, just a reminder, Friday's coming. It's not that far away. You try to push those feelings off, try to ignore those thoughts. No, I'm doing good. This is a good week. I'm having a good week. And by noon, you're adjusting your plans, not because anything's happened yet, but because you know it will. You're scanning your weekend, kind of like a, military strategist, but you're still in okay, safe space. But you're kind of looking, going, okay, what can I cancel? How can I make myself less visible? You're kind of pre-dreading the dread. Thursday, the slow descent. There's a pit in your stomach that doesn't match your calendar. Nothing's happened, and that's kind of what makes it worse. You're conserving energy, but not for fun, for emotional triage. You find yourself quieter, less animated, shutting down before anyone can accuse you of being too much or too sensitive. You line up distractions for the kids, extra screen time, maybe a sleepover at grandma's, a play day with some friends. You cancel your own plans, kind of shaking your head at yourself for thinking that you could even have plans in the first place. You're not paranoid yet. You're just kind of prepping the battlefield. And here comes Friday. Friday is welcome to emotional Armageddon. The clock strikes 4 p.m., and your body flinches like it's being trained. You hear the garage door go up, a sound that was never just a sound in my world. And something inside you starts to go off. It's called your fight or flight response. Your muscles tense, your thoughts scatter, the kids disappear into their rooms like clockwork. You go into this hyper alert mode. You check your tone, your expression, your breathing. You're not thinking about dinner. You're thinking about damage control. You smile and say, "Hey, how was work?" But inside you're screaming, "Please don't start. Please just be normal." And you brace, because you always have to brace. Saturday, damage control Olympics. The whole house becomes a stage, and everyone's role is very clear. Do not draw attention. You navigate the day like a hostage negotiator. You diffuse, you deflect, you disappear, you dance. You analyze every facial expression, every sigh, every silence. A misplaced dish or a different tone in your voice can detonate the whole day. You want to rest, you want to read a book, but your body won't let you. You're not at home, you're on patrol. You're on high alert. You can't even make yourself relax. Forget self-care. You're running Forget self-care. You're running trauma drills in a bathrobe. Sunday, the silent countdown. You've made it this far, but you're threadbare. The weight of unspoken tension has settled deep into your muscles. You keep checking the clock, counting the hours until you can, go to bed and wake up to Monday morning. You can't enjoy the day because you're still in it. Everything feels loud, sharp, irritable. Even peace feels dangerous, like the eye of the storm that could return at any moment. You fantasize about Monday the way other people fantasize about a weekend getaway. You're limping toward the finish line, wondering how much of you is left. And then finally, Monday morning, victory. The air is still. The silence is different. It's not the cold silence of punishment. It's a warm, open, quiet of peace. Coffee tastes like coffee again. You breathe deeper. You move slower. You don't even mind the 37 work emails because at least none of them are going to be emotionally manipulative. You get a moment to be you again. And in that moment, your nervous system begins the long walk back to baseline. You're not healed, but you're safe. For now, until next weekend. When you're living in the backwards world of covert narcissistic abuse, even time stops making sense. Your body learns a rhythm of dread and relief that no one else can see. While the world looks forward to weekends, you're bracing for them. While they're all talking about their plans and everything that's coming, they don't understand why you're not excited about the weekend too. You manage, you perform, you tiptoe, and then you collapse in whatever small window of safety you can find. The emotional toll of this cycle is real, and it's exhausting. But naming it is the first step to reclaiming your power. And once you see it clearly, you can begin to change how you respond to it. When you're living in this crazy land that is covert narcissism, one of the most powerful tools that I teach my clients is this. Start watching this cycle, this dynamic, their behavior, and your reactions to it like it's a movie. Detach emotionally and watch it like a movie. Observe instead of absorb. Imagine you're sitting in the front row with a big tub of popcorn, watching the chaos unfold on a screen instead of getting dragged into it. And I call this, having popcorn moments. And I'm going to talk about that here in just a minute. Because here's the truth. Their behavior does not require your participation in it in order for it to keep playing out. You don't have to jump on their drama in order for that drama to keep existing. In fact, whether you jump on or don't isn't going to change that. So the projection, the gaslighting, the circular conversations, the manufactured drama, that's all their script. You didn't write it, and you don't have to act in it. You can watch it and say, wow, that's a wild plot twist. I wonder how we got there. I wonder where it's going to go from here. Let me give you a few real live popcorn moments to kind of paint the picture here. So popcorn moment number 1. You calmly ask, hey, can you pick up the kids from school on Thursday? And they respond like you just asked them to donate a kidney or to write a dissertation or to move to Antarctica. Cue the dramatic sighs, the twisted facial expressions, a 5-minute monologue on how much you expect from them. You pause, take a step back, and you stick some popcorn in your mouth. And you think, what an overreaction to a basic logistical question. Wow. Popcorn moment number 2. You mention that you're tired from a long day. And somehow 5 minutes later, you're now in trouble for always making everything about you. You just mentioned that you're tired from a long day, but now it's become a competition as to who can be the more tired or the most tired. And they're mad because you make it all about you. And now somehow you're apologizing for being tired? No. Mentally throw another kernel in your mouth and whisper, I wonder how we got here. That was an interesting twist. Popcorn moment number 3. They do something cruel, maybe stonewall you all weekend, which, by the way, sometimes you can enjoy the peace of, the silent treatment. Then on Sunday night, they hand you a single flower and say, hey, we good? There's been no accountability, no conversation, no reconciliation, no conflict resolution, just a flower. And that equals forgiveness? Well, here's another popcorn moment. Instead of reacting, just observe. In your mind, you might think, this isn't repair, this is performance. And I don't have to pretend that it's enough. I can pretend and just, not fight that battle and let things go forward, at least Monday mornings the next day. But when you shift into observer mode, you give yourself space. You take a step back and you reclaim your calmness. You remind yourself, this isn't about me. It's just the movie that they are starring in. And I get to choose whether or not I buy into the storyline. So if your week has been upside down, if your weekends feel like emotional obstacle courses, if you feel like, your life feels like it's stuck on the wrong channel, maybe it's time to grab the popcorn. You don't need to fix their mood. You don't need to edit their script. You just need to stop letting it hijack your nervous system. I'm going to be talking about that more in some upcoming episodes. But it's time to reclaim your nervous system. So step back, watch, observe, stay grounded in your own truth. And when Monday rolls around again, take that breath, reclaim your peace, dig a little deeper into learning who you are and why you react the way you react. And you can't change them, but you can work on you. Maybe start building in some small rituals that are just for you on Monday mornings. One of the best pieces of advice I can give is to move your weekend. Since Saturday and Sunday are full of so much work, what about making Tuesday and Wednesday your weekend? On those days, make those your days to rest, to care for your own needs, to check out from the bazillion roles that you're playing in life and take a break. And if you can't get 2 days, then at least get one. Claim one day to be your weekend. You don't have to tell anybody, you just do it. Remind yourself here, you're not crazy. You're just waking up to a backwards world that no one really belongs in. If you need help on this journey, please reach out to me. I offer group coaching and I offer individual coaching, and I can help you to step out of this own world that you're living in to reclaim your internal environment. You can find my services on covertnarcissism.com. Take a look and see what's there and see what lines up for you. I wish each one of you so much peace on your journey of healing. The information provided by Renee Swanson, Covert Narcissism Podcast, and CNG Life Coaching is for educational purposes only and is not to be used for diagnosis purposes. It is not intended to be a substitute for clinical care. Please consult a health care provider for guidance specific to your case. This material discusses narcissism in general. Renee shares stories from her personal experience as well as from those she has talked with for several years. Her material does not claim that any specific person has narcissism and should not be used to refer to any specific person as having narcissism. Permission is not granted to link to or repost this material to support any allegation or claim that any specific person is a narcissist. That would be an unauthorized misuse of the material and information provided.